through the slides and I will start talking. So who are we? We are a joint international program organized by 4 full partner institutions, and you will see and hear a representative of each one. And we are the University of Edinburgh in UK, Lund University in Sweden, and Universitat Politècnica de Catalunya in Barcelona in Spain, and I myself from Ghent University in Belgium. We are 4 full partner universities, but we also have 7 associated partner institutions. I will not read them out loud here. Again, you will see a little bit of introduction for all of them later on this presentation, but you can see that we are spread all over the world. Go to the next slide, please. We have also contributors. So these are institutions and companies that financially support us. This financial support is very important for the viability of the program. We use that sponsorship money to provide additional scholarships for outstanding applicants. But more than that, it also shows that we have much credibility in the professional world, because it's not only financial support. Many of these institutions also explicitly value the quality of our graduates, and many of our students also find jobs with these institutes later on. Moreover, you can do internships in these institutions during the program. Program itself is a 2-year full-time master's program. It's important to appreciate that, and because many students, particularly coming on a self-sponsored basis, ask about combination of studies with work. That is possible, but not at all easy. It's really a full-time study program that you will invest 2 years of time in. So keep that in mind. It's not something that you can easily combine with a job, let alone combine with a full-time job. We are organized in 4 semesters, each of 30 ECTS credits, so that makes a total of 120. And as this is an Erasmus Plus program, international mobility is very central, which actually also implies physical mobility, so meaning moving from one country to the next during the studies. And it's quite typical for our students to spend some time in at least 3 different institutions, many even at 4 different places, and only very limited number of students at 2. So be prepared if you come into our program that you will also travel. And as I said at the beginning, it's important that we are a joint program, jointly organized program, and at the end of the day, you also receive a joint degree with the signatures of the 4 heads of university of the full partner institute. So even if you did not spend some time in any of the 4 partner institutes, you get the 4 signatures. And it is possible that you don't spend time at each of us. And here you get an overview of how the program is organized chronologically in 2 years. The first semester consists of teaching the basics in fire safety engineering, including structural engineering, thermodynamics, fire dynamics, and some broadening courses. And that first semester can be chosen to be followed at either Ghent University or the University of Edinburgh. And whereas the courses are organized in a slightly different manner, the contents overall in semester 1 is quite similar, so that everybody is prepared to spend semester 2 at Lund University, where you get more advanced courses on fire safety engineering, including human behavior and risk assessment. We find this a very important asset, that all the students spend a half a year together, physically together in Sweden, which really creates a very strong bond across all the students of that specific year. In year 2, you have the choice between going to Ghent or to Barcelona, where there is some difference in emphasis. The program in Barcelona is more centered around wildfires and industrial fire protection. But of course, also there, you certainly get courses on fire safety in the built environment. And this is the focus at Ghent University. So fire safety at the built environment is really what semester 3 is all about in Ghent. This being said, whereas the choice could and should be made based on your personal preference in terms of contents, make no mistake, it does not matter exactly where you spend that semester. In the end, you will be formed to become a versatile fire safety engineer. And this is even more the case in semester 4, which is devoted to the master's dissertation. And the master's dissertation can be spent at one of the full partner universities, can also be spent with the associated partners or with one of our contributors, but it's always somebody from the full partner universities that will take academic responsibility. I've already mentioned the possibility of an internship. Could be anywhere, but in particular with one of the institutes from our sponsorship consortium. And this is optional, it's not mandatory. And if you choose to do so, and most students do, then this is typically in between year 1 and year 2. Now, I'm always talking about students, and I know that you are not a student yet in our program. We hope we will be able to welcome you at some point, but in order to do that, you will have to go through the application procedure. This application for you in the first step is completely online. So you should follow the guidelines and guidance that you find on our website. And you will see there that there are different routes to follow, whether your country of origin is a partner country or a program country. This is all explained on the website. The requirements are explained. And there I want to stress and to read that very, very carefully. In particular, also the requirement on language level. This is a question that we get many, many times, like, oh, my education was in English, can I get an exemption? The answer, unfortunately, is very often no. Very often you do need a valid language certificate. There is a limited number of exceptions, and these are clearly listed on the website. So do yourself a favor and read that very carefully so that your application file is as strong as it can be, because it comes with either an admission into our program or not. But if you are admitted into our program, then you also maybe qualify for a full scholarship or a tuition fee waiver. And admission or not, that decision is made on the basis of your application file. Whether or not you receive a scholarship or a tuition fee waiver, that is a matter of competition among the applicants. I want to stress also here that whereas the first step of your application is completely online, no student enters our program without being interviewed first. So there will also be an interview to actually make the decision in combination with your application file as to whether or not you will be admitted into the program. But this is the second step. There are deadlines that you can see here on the slide. We are in December now, so we have a bit more than a month left, 1.5 months left for the deadline to apply for a scholarship. If you do not need a scholarship or do not want to apply for a scholarship, then you have a bit more time until the end of March if you need a visa, and until the end of May even of next year if you do not need a visa to come and study. We'll move on to the next slide. Yes, so some of the requirements again are say summarized here on this slide, but more elaborate information is found on our website. If you hesitate whether or not you might qualify, you can also ask the question by email. But normally, if you are within any of these fields and you have at least a bachelor degree, a BSc degree, or of course, you can also maybe have a master's degree, and then you qualify to apply. Again, please do check very carefully the website when it comes to language requirements, and in particular, the website of the University of Edinburgh, where often the exceptions are explained, but also the exact minimum requirements for the language tests are described, because if you do not meet them, you cannot be admitted into the program. This is a very strict rule. But let's assume for the best for the time being, and hopefully we can welcome you soon. And then after 2 years of successful studies and exams, maybe you will be here on this picture, one of the smiling faces on our graduation day. Much and most of the information you will find on our website. In case of doubt, you can also drop an email, but please try to limit the number of emails, because we get many emails every day, and it's not always easy to give a fast reply. Again, most of the information you will find on our website. So this was a bit of an introduction as coordinator of the program. Now I'll be happy to also address you as a professor at Ghent University. Ghent is a medieval city. As you can see in the bottom picture here, we are located in Belgium, which is very central in Europe, and it's a combination of nature, of culture and history, and also, of course, a university. Belgium, the capital of Belgium is Brussels, which is also the capital of Europe. And Ghent is still a very lively and beautiful city, I can say. We were a real metropolis in the Middle Ages. We are no longer a metropolis. We still have around 300,000 inhabitants. And about 80,000 of them are students, 15% of which are international students. So that means that during the academic year, you can really tell that this is a young, lively, vibrant city with many international aspects. We have a very well-developed transport system, and Ghent is extremely well connected with Brussels Airport. It's about 50 minutes by train from Brussels South Airport, which is actually in Charleroi. There it's about 1.5 hours by train and bus. We have 3 train stations in Ghent with connections to all the major cities in Belgium, but then from Brussels, for example, also internationally to the Netherlands, to France, to Germany. And inside Ghent, we have a very good network of public transport by bus and tram, but actually most of the students would travel locally in Ghent by bicycle. It's a very bicycle-friendly city, and it's not large, so everything is actually within walking distance. Our university is now a bit more than 200 years old, and for the past decade, we have systematically been ranked in the top 100 worldwide. We are very proud of that, so it's very consistent that we are playing in the top league, so to speak. We're organized in 11 faculties, and we also have a campus in South Korea. You see more numbers here. I will not read them all out loud, but we are also very active internationally. We are in the Faculty of Engineering and Architecture, and most of the courses are organized by staff from the Department of Structural Engineering and Building Materials, where also I myself am active. We actually have 3 programs running at Ghent University. Of course, today's session is all about IMFSE, but we also have a local master's program, which you might want to have a look at in case your application for IMFSE would be successful but not lead to a scholarship. And we also have a postgraduate program in fire safety engineering that is meant to be combined with a full-time job here locally. When I say we here at Ghent University, I mainly mean the 3 people that you see on this slide. We are the 3 full-time academics carrying this program at Ghent University. We have colleagues Ruben van Coyle, whose expertise is mainly in structural fire engineering, Tarek Beji, who is mainly working in modeling of multi-phase aspects in fires, and you see myself there in the middle. Also, the core research activity in my team is on modeling of fire and smoke dynamics. In total, we have a team of about 4 postdocs, about 15 PhD students, and also 2 IMFSE administrators, Lies and Natalie, present here in this virtual tour. Just to give you a little bit of flavor, don't have the time to explain in detail what the modeling exactly does, but it's called CFD. What we are doing is computational fluid dynamics. where we try to numerically model flames and fires and try to explain and develop theories, but sometimes also more engineering applications, like you see here on the most right-hand side of this slide, where we reconstructed a large building fire that happened in Brussels a few years ago. The bottom left pictures, by the way, are flames in microgravity conditions. You can go to the next slide, please. We also do multi-phase aspects. So this is mainly in the team of Tariq Beji, where here you see some brief demonstration of oscillatory behavior in case of a liquid pool fire in a compartment that is mechanically ventilated. Again, I do not have the time to explain all of this, although I'm always tempted to get carried away when I explain CFD, but there are many aspects to be understood, including in particular fire dynamics, and that you will also learn in our program. If you go to the next, then we sometimes also do large-scale testing, and this is often in collaboration with our fire lab here in Ghent, Work and Fire Ghent, but it's also very often in combination with international partnerships, where the international partner does the experiments and we then do the modeling. Final slide on the research is more focused on the structural fire engineering part, which is the activity of Ruben van Coily. If you think that structural engineering is a little bit old-fashioned, I think you should think again, because this is a very lively research area with modern materials, with modern building techniques, and in particular in the strive towards sustainability. And there, fire engineering and fire safety is a very important companion, because it makes no sense to try and improve the performance of buildings in terms of energy consumption if these buildings are then more prone to catch fire and to be destroyed by fire. So this field of structural fire engineering is a very lively field, where also the most modern techniques like machine learning are applied. And with that, I think I'm more or less done talking about Belgium. I hope I managed to convey a very positive message on Ghent, and I'm very sure that Eulalia, who has now just turned on her camera, will be at least as positive on the marvelous city of Barcelona.
Yes, thank you very much, Bart. I introduce myself. I'm Eulalia Planas. I'm the local program director of the IMFSE at UPC in Barcelona. As you may know, Barcelona, well, it's a very well-known city. I suppose most of you have heard of it, but if you go through the next slide, for those that don't know where it is, Barcelona is one of the largest cities in the Mediterranean. It's located in the northeastern part of Spain, in Catalonia. It has, I think, it's the largest city of the full partners university of the IMFSE. It has around 3.5 million of inhabitants in the metropolitan area. It's also a warm or mild climate city, let's say, because of its location in the Mediterranean. It's also a very active and lively city with a long history and many traditions, curious traditions like human towers, or of course we have a very famous gastronomy as well. It's also a city with many students, because we have several universities in the city. It's also a very well communicated city. We have an international airport with connections with everywhere around the world. Also a high-speed train connection with the rest of Spain and also with France, a seaport, and within the city we have it's a very well-connected city with a strong network that has metro, tram, bus, and around 300 kilometers of cycling paths. As for the university, Universitat Politècnica de Catalunya is a university specialized in the fields of engineering, architecture, and science. I think this is also a difference among the other universities in the consortium that are universities that cover a wider range of areas and topics. It's also a very young university. It was created around 50 years ago. But it's also very active. It's ranked first technical university in Spain in most of the technical subjects, and is also within the 50 more, let's say, universities in Europe and top 100 in the world. We have around 34,000 students overall, and UPC has several campuses in Barcelona city and as well around Barcelona area. IMFSE is taught in the newest campus of UPC, which is located, its campus Diagonal Besós is located in the northern part of Barcelona. In the Barcelona East School of Engineering, which has around 300 students, several master's degree and bachelor's degree are taught there. And also we have several Erasmus Mundus with which IMF students can share some of the courses. So they are very well connected. The team that is involved in the IMFSE is the CERTEC team, Center for Technological Risk Studies. This is a research group that belongs to the Chemical Engineering Department of UPC. It's a group that has long-standing experience on technological, environmental, and natural risks. We are as well, or we are part of what we call the Specific Center for Hydrogen Research. It's a specific center at UPC that combines the activity of all the research groups working in the hydrogen technologies. Our team, it's the people you can see in the slide, Professor Elsa Pastor, Alba Águeda, Pascal Baca, Ronan Paugam, and myself, and together with Professor Emeritus Joachim Casal and Simona Dossi, plus 6 PhD students now. In terms of what we do, as Bart said before, obviously students that come at UPC will have as well all the topics related to advanced fire safety engineering, but we taught the subjects more specific to specialize in wildfires and industrial research, industrial risk. And this is why I mostly collected in this slide some of the topics in which we are strong in research, which is major accidents modeling, also risk analysis in general, all aspects related to wildfire monitoring and fire behavior modeling, and as well as all the topics related to modeling in the vulnerability in the wildland urban interface and also in the wildland industrial interface. We also have strong experience in experimental research in all the topics I already mentioned, with specific lab in our premises and also with facilities allowing to do large-scale experiments as well. As you can see, pool fires, jet fires, and dispersion of flammable clouds and toxic clouds as well. And it just this is the end of my presentation, just to see that when the students come at UPC, we share, apart from obviously the hard work during the lectures, We also share some social activities and field trips along all the semester. And I think that's all from my side.
Yes, I think it is, Eulalia. Thank you very much. I guess we can move directly on to me. And my name is Rory Haddon. I'm the Professor of Fire Science at the University of Edinburgh, and I'm going to talk to you a bit about what Edinburgh has to offer for the IMFSE, both as a student living here and as a student studying here. Edinburgh is another beautiful city, part of the IMFSE consortium. It is the capital of Scotland. It's a small city. We have a population of a little more than 500,000 people, but we are very well connected as a small country, as a small city, to many countries around the world through rail and indeed air. Edinburgh is a beautiful place and it's a very historic place. So the old and new towns, as they are called, of Edinburgh are a UNESCO World Heritage Site, with many, many historical and cultural attractions that will keep you very busy if you want whilst you are studying here in the semester in any free time you have. It was also a few years ago voted as the second best student city in the UK, reflecting the capabilities and the opportunities that are present here. We have a bit of everything in Edinburgh. We've got beaches, we've got mountains, so Portobello Beach and Arthur's Seat is a small hill in the middle of town. We've got a historic castle you can see in this picture. And then we have also the Central University campus, really, really close to downtown, which is not where you'll spend most of your time, but we will come on to that in a moment. The University of Edinburgh itself, we have somewhere around 45,000 students. The number varies, of course, year to year, but we are a large university. Since 2010, we've taught students from 160 countries. So the chances are that wherever you're coming from, there are already some, if not many, students in Edinburgh who are from a similar country and indeed a similar background. This is a bit of an old statistic. The QS World Rankings in 2022 had us ranked 16 in the world. I think probably I shouldn't say this, but recently we have gone down the league table, but still remain firmly within the top 50, I think number 34 in the world now. Where you will spend your time studying is the King's Buildings campus. That is where the fire engineering topics are taught. It's a small campus, about 30 minutes from the city centre, but you'll be located here with other fire engineering students from our local programs, both at undergraduate and master's level, and you will be kind of making this place your home for the semester that you're studying here. And this includes, as well as lecture theatres and all the usual things you would expect from a university campus, we also have the fire laboratories in that space as well. Just a bit of background in terms of the connections between Edinburgh and fire research. I mean, we've been around for a long time. The first bit of fire engineering here was in about 1824, where this chap pictured on the right outside some of the historic buildings of Edinburgh, this chap, James Braidwood, set up the first municipal fire service of anywhere in the world. That was in 1824. About 150 years later, the university started teaching fire engineering and fire science in the early 1970s. And since then, between us and Lund, who you'll hear from next, we've been vying for who actually was the first and who did it originally. But we've got a long history also in terms of the teaching. So the MSc taught in 1974. First research conference was held here in 1975. And the world's first textbook in fire dynamics was written by Professor Drysdale, who is an emeritus professor in the group still. So you will hear a lot about him and his textbook. Studying here, the curriculum I will show very briefly, but you will spend some of your time in the fire science lab doing practical things, putting into practice the things that you will be taught in fire safety engineering, fire science, and fire dynamics. Structural design for fire forms another part of what we do in Edinburgh, similar to what Bart already mentioned. And lastly, we have this research methods class where we hopefully teach you how to teach yourself. That's kind of the idea of that class. You might join us also in semester 4 for the dissertation. Next slide, please. Yes, in terms of who we are and who you will see, at Edinburgh we have a strong teaching team. These are the faces that you will see regularly in your time here. Aishu is our student support advisor, so she's there to help with any kind of issues or questions or hopefully not, but any problems that you have. There's myself and my colleague Angus, Stephen, Zach, and Simon. These are all people you will see in Edinburgh. We all have different backgrounds. Oh, can we go back, please, to the previous slide? We all have different backgrounds and different expertises, but we work together as a joint research group to undertake our research projects. And I've just put here some of the keywords that you might see in terms of the research areas. We've got myself I'm interested in how things burn, the material flammability in wildfires. Angus looking at regulations and design and how we put that kind of science into practice. Stephen does some work on fire modeling and combustion. Zach himself works on wildfires and flame spread. And Simon actually doesn't do wildfires and flame spread. Simon spends his time working more on construction and project management and that side of things as well. So quite a broad spectrum of things. Colleagues not mentioned, Professor Luke Bisbee, he doesn't actually teach anything directly on the IMFSE, so he's not mentioned on this slide, but is an important part of our group. And so is Ricky Carvell, who's also not mentioned on this slide, but he's an important part in our group as well. So those will be the faces that you see. One of the unique things about Edinburgh in the IMFSE program is we have a large lab class, and we will give you students who come to Edinburgh in the first semester will have the opportunity to undertake 5 practical lab experiments that are based on the kind of theoretical developments that you will have heard of in class. And it's an opportunity to get hands-on with some flames and to actually see how we instrument, measure, and quantify the processes that underpin fire science. Next slide. But it's not all hard work. In Edinburgh, we also have a good social life here. I think the important thing to emphasize in Edinburgh that we try to do is to integrate the IMFSE students with our other cohorts of students that we have through the different classes you'll be taking. So you'll mix with some of our local master's students, some of our students who are studying mechanical engineering. Sometimes they take the classes in fire safety, same with students in civil engineering and in chemical engineering. But most importantly, I think, is we have the SFPE student chapter. So the Society of Fire Protection Engineers student chapter at the University of Edinburgh runs all sorts of social events, meeting industry, there are social events. This year there was a fire ball, so we all got dressed up in our best clothes and had a nice time. And the point of this is to really emphasize the fact that you're not doing this in a vacuum. It's not just IMFSE students, but you're kind of also able to meet and network with other students and indeed employers and so on. And I think that's it from Edinburgh. Yeah, just one last picture to show how beautiful it is. I hand over to Enrico.
Thanks, Rory, and I'm here talking about Lund and Lund University. My name is Enrico Ronchi, and I'm an associate professor here in Sweden and also the local program director for the IMFSE program. And I will briefly introduce you about Lund and Lund University. We are located, as you can see, in Scandinavia, so we are on the northern part of Europe. And Lund is an historical city which is really integrated together with the university. And just to give you an example, of inventions and innovative technology that has been created in Lund is related to things that really impact your daily life. For instance, Bluetooth has been invented here in Lund, and the same applies to Tetra Pak. The city has been founded in the 10th century and is called also the City of Ideas, and indeed this is reflected in the innovation that is associated with the city, and it's a fairly student-sized population because it's keep in mind that it's about a bit less than 100,000 people, and almost half of this is student population. So just to give you an idea that everything in Lund is about the university. It's very easy to reach Lund via public transport because we are based about 30 minutes by train from Copenhagen Airport, which is an international airport. We can also reach Lund with 30 minutes by car from Malmö Airport, which is a national airport here in Sweden. And we have a great public transport system with networks of buses and trains, which both connect within the city and also between cities, Lund with other areas around us. But keep in mind that everything in Lund is walking distance. So it's really, really easy for students to move around. The university, it's an historical university founded in 1666. As I mentioned, we have over 40,000 students. And as I said, if you have a population of a city of 100,000 people, it means that almost half of this population is students, and the university is about 8,000 employees. And it is the Scandinavia's largest research university. Indeed, we are actually also ranked in the top 100 universities in the world, and we cooperate with a large number of institutions around the world. When it comes to fire safety engineering, we also have a large history. As Rory was mentioning, we have research ongoing in fire engineering since the early 60s and is still growing. And formally, since 1986, which I guess earlier than many of you was born, the department initiated a university level education for fire protection engineering. So fire protection engineering is really a historical discipline at Lund University, and this is still reflected today. So when it comes to the staff that we have at our Department of Fire Safety Engineering, we have 15 members of research staff, which includes at all levels, let's say from postdocs to researchers to full professors, and 16 PhD students, which are split between 9 internal PhD students, which are hired by us, and 7 that are linked to industry. And keep in mind that at our division, our Department of Fire Safety Engineering, we had more than 1,000 fire protection engineers that have graduated. We also have 3 labs. We have a fire lab in our main building where we teach. We also have a tunnel facility. I will define it as medium scale. It's about 60-meter long tunnel. And we also have a VR lab where we test virtual reality and innovative solutions at another campus of Lund University at Campus Helsingborg, the Helsingborg Safety Hub. When it comes to education, we are engaged mostly in 2 programs. One is indeed IMFSE, for which we are here, which is about 30 international students per year. But we also have our local Swedish program, which, as I mentioned, it's an historical program with our department formally be around since the late 80s, which means that we have a very large network of alumni. And every year we have a fixed intake of students, of Swedish local students, of about 50 students, which means that you will not be the only fire safety engineering students while in Lund, but you will interact also with our local Swedish students while spending your time in Sweden. When it comes to research, we have 5 major research areas, which are also reflected in key areas in which we do teaching. We work with the fire performance based design of buildings and risk analysis. And indeed, you will have a course on risk assessment while you will be in Lund. We also have a very long-standing track in the domain of human behavior in fire, and I am the main person in charge of that. And I would say, I don't want to sound arrogant, but we are probably the most influential group in the world on this domain by having a large research team working in this area for many years, even before my time here in Sweden. So since the 90s. And then, and we have a course in the IMFSE education related to this subject. We also are involved in CFD modeling, and indeed we have a course on simulation of fires in enclosures, which is part of the IMFSE education. And we also have a track on fire dynamics, which is one of the core subjects of fire protection engineering and fire safety engineering. And indeed, we have a course here for IMFSE students called Advanced Fire Dynamics. And most recently, in the last, I would say, 8 years or so, 10 years, we also have a research track linked to wildfire. So in the pictures that you see here, you see on the top left, just a schematic representation of our tunnel facility that we have. That we use for experimental research, fire experimental research, and then down we have some images from our work on wildfire modeling, and even further down we have just a reconstruction in virtual reality of an evacuation scene, and that we use for doing testing of new technologies for the study of human behavior in fire. So to sum up, we are really eager to host you here at Lund University. All students spend their second semester here in Sweden, and we have a very diverse and excited team that will want to greet you while in Sweden. So I think I give the word back to Bart now.
Thank you, Enrico and Rory and Eulalia. So now you, I think, have a good introductory view on who the full partner universities are. I will now go very quickly through our associated partners as well. The first one here is ZAG, which is the Slovenian National Building and Civil Engineering Institute. Slovenia is a very small country, even smaller than Belgium in Europe, but it's very lively when it comes to fire safety. And this is also thanks to the momentum created by the Frisbee project, which shows and discusses the importance of fire safety in the context of sustainability. This is the Frisbee team that you can see, many faces, and some of the faces that you see here are also students who did an internship at ZAG, because every year they are hosting quite a number of interns. They have a fire lab, which is one of the most well-equipped fire test labs in Europe and even in the world, particularly because they can cover a very wide range of scales of tests. So we have the so-called reaction to fire tests and fire resistance tests. If that doesn't ring a bell, don't worry, you will learn all about that when it comes to passive fire protection. But the reaction to fire tests, particularly the very first ones that you can read, are very small scale tests in the order of sometimes even a few milligrams, and then the fire resistance tests are up to entire construction elements. So indeed a very wide range. They also do bespoke experiments on modern systems, I would say. Photovoltaics, batteries are very important in society. So there you can find what they are doing. And this is then also used in the context of IMFSE. This also shows the overview of their activities, but I suggest that we go to the next slide, which is then University of Poitiers, Poitiers in France. Poitiers has a very strong tradition in fire safety science and engineering research, and now this is crystallized in the Institut P', which is led by Thomas Vogom. So Poitiers is also a very historic city, and also there you have very strong experimental facilities. Here again you see a few pictures that give you a flavor of what they can do, and again you can see this sometimes scales down to detailed material effects up to modeling, but also experiments when it comes to wildfires, wild urban interface fires. And again, also here you see lithium-ion battery fires, which are very modern aspects. These were two European institutes. If we cross the ocean, the Atlantic, then we end up in US, and one of our associated partners is WPI, Worcester Polytechnic Institute, where Albert Simeoni, who is a former IMFSE director, and he was at the University of Edinburgh, is now there the head of the research unit on, they call it fire protection engineering, and you see here an overview of the team. WPI is one of the leading institutes in US, but you can indeed go to the next slide. Don't worry. And again, you see they do a combination of modeling, which is then simulations in the top right corner, and experiments, where the more left-hand side of this slide, you can see what they can do. Also, they do sometimes what is called field experiments, which means really doing tests out in the open in nature. And it's not only for the built environment, it's also the wildfires that they study. Still in US, a second leading institute in US is the University of Maryland, also at the east coast of US, also has a very strong tradition and is very well connected to IMFSE, particularly through master's dissertation students, which is also the case, by the way, for the previous institutes. And here you see again an overview of a few faces of people. The local program director for IMFSE is Professor Arnaud Trouvé, who is also the head of the department there now of the Fire Protection Engineering Unit. And again, here you see the long list of research activities. And as I said before, also here for a dissertation, and they always offer a few topics. It's again a combination of modeling and experiments. Going in the other direction, or if you want, keeping going across the globe, we go to Australia, where we find University of Queensland, who is the leading institute, or which is the leading institute when it comes to fire safety, science and engineering in Australia. They have a very long-lasting relationship as associated partner with IMFSE. We're actually the first associated partner that we welcomed, and now the head of this department is David Lang. You see his picture in the middle of this slide, and he is surrounded by a group of talented young academics. I'm not going to read out all the names, but together they also cover a wide range of activities, which you can see here at this slide, and at least you get some flavor. They don't do the very large scale testing at Queensland, but they do micro and small scale up to medium and large scale. And you see here a few pictures that relate to the charring behavior of wood. Again, if that does not ring a bell yet, don't worry, you will learn about this in the different courses. But this is very relevant in practice, because again, in the strive towards sustainability, wood and timber is finding its way more and more into the built environment. But of course, timber is combustible, and so we need to really understand what is the impact of the presence of unprotected timber on fire dynamics, but also what is the consequence of a fire when it comes to structural engineering aspects. Also, an important activity is what is called informal settlements. So not everywhere on this planet we have solid structures with fire protection systems built in. Many people live in what is called informal settlements, and then understanding the fire dynamics and understanding how sometimes simple measures can significantly reduce consequences of a fire is very, very important for many people on this planet. And so this is also an activity that is done at University of Queensland. Coming back to Europe now, we go to Switzerland, where you find ETH Zurich, which is one of the leading institutes in the world, particularly also when it comes to structural fire engineering. And there, Professor Andrea Frangi is the head of the research unit. And here there's strong activity again on the use of timber in the built environment. It's a very popular construction style in Switzerland, and they have very, very advanced lab facilities where they can combine the attack of a fire with a multidimensional structural loading. And then not only looking at elements like beams and columns, but also looking at connections between them. And again, from these lab tests, they can develop much knowledge and insight, and they also then use that to feed models. And so there you see here on the right hand side of this slide, you see a picture of what is called the finite element method result, where you see here in this case the temperature field inside, in this case, steel plates, but that could then also be in timber. And again, here also a few faces that you see of people who are active in this team. The middle person that you see, by the way, defended his PhD 2 weeks ago, and he was also a former IMFSE student, which is why I am mentioning that, because indeed some of our students, actually quite a number, go through to do a PhD. And of course, most of them end up in the professional world, but a fair number do a PhD. And in this case, this was also about the impact of the thermal attack from a fire onto wood, and how to model that in a simplified way, such that the designs, the real engineering designs, can be improved. And as such, standards can be improved to incorporate this modern knowledge. And in that sense, our IMFSE program plays a very important role in general, that we develop actually state-of-the-art knowledge and go beyond, such that overall worldwide the fire safety level can be increased. Here you see an element being removed from a fire test, and you can still see the bottom part burning, and you still see the flames going around this. You see the persons next to the system, just to give you some feeling of how large these devices are. And then we have an institute in China, USTC, University of Science and Technology, which is the state key laboratory of fire science. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the system in China, but they are organized in so-called state key laboratories, which are then the leading institutes in a certain domain, and which also comes along with significant amounts of research funding. And as such, USTC is the key player, I would argue, in terms of academic research activity in mainland China. And you see here the different fields or research areas of the State Key Lab. I'm not going to read them out loud. I give you some time to read them yourselves. But this is then also, say, translated into research focuses. And also there, USTC then offers a dissertation topic in one of these different areas. It's a huge institute, and you see here they have almost 90 faculty members, more than 40 professors, so and 26 associate professors. So worldwide, this is actually the largest institute in that sense when it comes to fire safety science. They've also been recognized internationally, as you can see from the titles that some of our colleagues there have been granted. Many PhD students, many master students as well. So here you can see how strong such a state key lab in China can be. So with that, I think I'm more or less done talking. I know that Lies always has the final word in this presentation, stressing a few deadlines and a few do's and don'ts, and so I'm very happy to hand over to Lies.
Yes, thank you, Bart. So my name is Lies. Together with my colleague Nathalie, we take care of the administrative coordination for the IMFSE program. And I'm just going to shortly go over some important practicalities. I hope these deadlines are already clear to you from the presentation, so I just want to stress those. So if you're a scholarship applicant, the deadline is the 31st of January 2026, and you can expect feedback by March. If you're a self-sponsored applicant and you need a visa for Europe, it's 31st of March as a deadline. If you do not need a visa, then it's the 31st of May, and you can expect feedback the month after. Then there's an extra note on the legalization of documents. So we often get questions related to the legalizations as well. So you need to legalize your degree as well as your transcript of records. The full procedure is explained on the UGent website, and the web link on this slide you can find on our IMFSE website. But there is a new thing which is called the qualification check. You just start your application as explained on that web link, and then you just follow the instructions, and it should be quite easy. It's new since this academic year. It costs 59 euros, more or less, and then everything is explained through the procedure. And you need to make sure that your documents are available in English, Dutch, French, or German. Just on a side note, that the other legalization methods, such as through the Belgian embassy or an apostille, are also still valid. Then the two most important things that you will, or the most important thing actually you will need once you're admitted is your acceptance letter. So that one will come as soon as possible after being admitted. And the other important thing that you will receive as well is the practical guide. So this is a quite extensive document, and it will contain all the information that you need as an admitted student. So it will contain all the information, but in case you need more guidance than that document, there is of course a possibility for email correspondence, and there is also an IMFSE student network, so you can also help each other out. The two important things there to take care of first is your visa, and then also your accommodation. I just want to point out that for both of them, you need to start well in advance or on time, and all the procedures and the deadlines and so on will be shared through the practical guide. And then this is actually, well, the last important slide, I would say. So here you just see a sum. The sum up of the other administrators. So this is me, Lies, and Natalie, my colleague, who's also present today, who are responsible for the general coordination, let's say, of the program. Plus, also we are located at Ghent University, seeing Ghent University is the coordinator. And then I just also want to mention Laura Smith and Eshu Biju, who are Rory already mentioned during his presentation. So they are located at the University of Edinburgh. Then in Lund University, we have Helene. I hope she's also present, but if not, we can also, or Enrico can for sure also answer questions there, but she is the administrator at Lund University. And then at UPC, we have Carlos Oriol. You also have the QR code here if you want to go straight to our website. That's it for our part. I just want to thank you in name of the whole management board. And I'm going to give the word back to Bart to coordinate or moderate our QA session. Thank you.
Thank you, Lies. And you also briefly saw Natalie. So thank you for switching on your camera, Natalie. I've already typed in the chat box that you are invited, if you have any questions, to type them in the chat box. So just to keep things a bit organized, and do not start unmuting yourself and talking. This will be chaotic, but please type your questions in the chat box, and then we'll try to handle them as they come in. And if we do not have questions, then we can close the session. Yeah, so the first question comes in. I will just make a general statement here. Any certification or qualification that you think might help in your application file will probably help. So this is not specific for the question that is asked here, but it also applies to what is mentioned there. So if you have qualifications that are related to fire engineering, just add them in your application file. The second question is impossible to reply. That's Patricio's question. It's a mix. So we have freshly graduated BSc students coming in. We have people who have had 30 years of professional experience before they enter the program. It's really a mix. So all I can say is that we look at all different aspects in the file, and that we try to make a sum of that, and then also in terms of granting scholarships, we actually also look at the spreading of people around the planet, but also looking at the composition of the entire cohort. And so it's a mix of different profiles. The selection criteria are clearly mentioned on the website when it comes to admission. When it comes to the granting of scholarships, there are no, say, clear criteria in the sense that this is competitive. So this depends not only on your personal file, but also on the application files of the other applicants. So it's not a certain, say, checklist that if you check all the boxes, that then you automatically get a scholarship. It will always depend on the competition of that cohort. There is not really a minimum GPA requirement for admission, but obviously the higher the GPA, the cumulative GPA, the higher the chances are in that sense that the academic say aspect of the application file becomes stronger. But there is no absolute minimum value for GPA requirement. And I think that's the two questions are similar. Yes, of course, if you have 8 years of experience as a civil engineer, this is certainly still possible to be admitted to this course. So if you are ready to apply, certainly your application file will be screened. And so Daniel, no, so the medium of instruction in English is not good enough. And so please do check the website carefully to see if you qualify for an exception. About the qualification check, that one I'm going to direct to Liz. If you can say a few more words about what that really involves, this qualification check.
Okay.
It's a question from Sinan.
It's very new. So you just have to go to our website or the UGent website, and then you need to click the link when it comes to the legalization. And the qualification check, it actually means that there is an external office organization that is going to do the check for you. So you just need to follow their instructions, and you pay them, and then they do the full check for you. That's what I know. Maybe my colleague Natalie wants to add something if she knows more about this, but that's what I understood from this new procedure. So actually everything should be explained online.
A related
Natalie,
question,
do you want to add something?
Before going to Natalie?
Yeah.
Sure. Related question is, if you have already an apostille document, you don't need to do the additional qualification check, right?
No. So if you have
so that wasn't a related
or,
question. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So if you have an apostille or you have a legalization that is done by the Belgian embassy, then you do not need to do the qualification check on top of that. Okay.
Hi, ma'am. How are
Natalie,
you?
yeah. Sorry, Natalie, do you want to add something there?
Yeah, I want to say something.
Sorry,
Hello.
first going to listen to Natalie. Please be muted. Thank you, Natalie.
Yeah, just about the qualification check, I'll add the link to the Ghent University website explaining this as well. Yeah, as Lies mentioned, this is new to us as well, but it should all be explained while you're doing the application process. So if you do encounter any problems with this, you can still email us, but it should all be clear from what is mentioned on the UGent website. And I'll just search the link and I'll put it in the chat as well.
Yeah, I have the link here, so I can just copy paste it. No problem. Yeah.
Okay, good. Then I have a question from Steven. So Rita, with 40-year plus experience, sure, just apply and we will assess your file. Beware, of course, and that this is an engineering program, so you have to be prepared for mathematics and formulas. But if you're up to that, sure, no reason not to apply. And there is no country limitation in terms of admission into the program. There are limitations from Europe in terms of the granting of scholarships, and that there is a limit to the number of scholarships that we can grant to a single country. It cannot be more than 10% of the total number of scholarships going to a single country, but there is no country limitation when it comes to admission. There is some question about sharing the slides. I don't think we really need to share the slides because most of the information is on the website, but I also don't see any objection to that.
We normally do that.
Performance-based design is, sorry. Performance-based
design. Share the
Tell us.
slides. Sorry, there's a,
Ram,
sorry, I think there's just a little bit of delay on but we normally share the slides, so this will be done.
Okay, good. Then performance-based design, well, what topics are covered? Practically everything when it comes to fire protection engineering. So this is a course where all the different ingredients that you learn in different courses are jointly utilized to really design in a real life scenario, in a real life case, a fire safe design. So all the topics that you can find on the website in our different courses are actually also brought back and together into this course. It's not easier to get admitted with a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. It really depends on the global file. It's the global application file that matters. So there is not that one chance is higher or lower. The question on IELTS, I've already mentioned 3 times. I will not mention it again. No, there is no exception for that. You really have to check the website, so you will still need an IELTS. It's a question for Rory. That's I think not really a question for Rory. If again this is a question about language certificate, please check the website. The qualification check needs to be done for sure before you can be admitted. So sometimes you can get a conditional admission. It's always better to have the qualification check as soon as possible, because otherwise this can take some time and this can actually lead to trouble. So I understand that this costs money and that you might want to wait until you know more or less if you might be accepted or not, but it does not strengthen your file if your qualification check has not been done yet. So that's all I can say.
Can I ask something?
I'm not going to reply
Bart?
to questions on the language certificate anymore. Yes, sorry, please.
Yeah, if I just can add, so it does happen that you apply without any legalized documents. That is allowed and it's possible, but you need to remember that we ask you to do it as soon as possible and preferably before you apply. Why? Because you need this to apply for your visa afterwards, and we often see that students then have issues to apply for the visa if they don't have the legalization yet. And if you don't have the legalization, we cannot give you an admission letter. Without the admission letter, you don't get the visa. So just everything gets delayed. So this is actually the reasoning behind it. And I think it's good to understand this, that everything starts with your full application file. Once you have that, you have the acceptance letter. And once you have the acceptance letter, you can do all the rest. So that's why you need to have everything in order as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm. And maybe a question related to that, Lies, if I may draw your attention to that, is the question by Liza Rose Bolaños. Can you maybe see if you can have
now.
A reply? In the meantime, I can already reply to Mohammed Farid Nugroho that no, you will need an IELTS, and it's going to reduce your chances for a scholarship if you don't have it. And so it's better to have it. So yeah, please, Lies.
Yeah, to get back to Liza's question. Yeah. So if you already submitted legalizations in your application, then normally your application is complete. It is just probably the prompt that you're talking about. I'm not sure what that exactly is, but what I think it is is that the colleagues will double check your legalizations at a later stage. So that means that you are now in order, probably then with everything. They will check it and you will get some feedback about that at a later time. But if you added that to your application file already, you just need to wait until you hear from us or the colleagues from the central admin office.
Okay, thank you. Question of Sturla Elvarsson. Professional experience when it's specific for fire engineering, fire safety engineering, this will certainly be an asset. So if you have that, make sure to make that clear in your application file. BIM coordination, MEP design will also help in your application file. And so anything that is related to the IMFSE studies in terms of professional experience, please do mention that very clearly, and because this will certainly help strengthen your file. I've already mentioned that there is no nationality limitation when it comes to admission. And if a language certificate is shared after the 31st of January, that is not a problem. But it really helps if you make it clear in your application file that you are aware that you will need a language certificate and that it is scheduled already. And so then we know that this is coming. That this is much better than just saying, "Oh, my program was taught in English." And that is not a good reflex. So if you're in that situation, it's not a problem, but this must be done. So again, the question by Fahad Mushtaq, the answer is no. Please check the website.
Can I add something when it comes to the language, please? I also want to stress there again why we ask for the language certificate rather in advance than later on. Again, when you don't have a language certificate yet, your admission would be conditional. For some of the universities, it is possible to give you a conditional admission letter, but not for all. What does that mean? If you start at a certain university and that university does not give conditional admission letters, you cannot get any admission letter. So again, it is very important that you have your certificate as soon as possible, because for some of the universities, you can only get an acceptance letter if you have the language certificate. And otherwise, there could be issues and you could receive it too late to apply for your visa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the question by Daniel, appreciate that. Indeed, we know that paying 59 euros can be hard for some people. It's fully understood. Unfortunately, you will have to go through one process or another in terms of legalizing the document. And indeed, we know that this comes with a cost. So if you don't do that in advance, then everything will still be conditional. But it is possible. But again,
yeah, for sure. I just want to add, it is possible because multiple students do this. We realize this, but just know that you can do it for sure. But just make sure that you have everything ready to hand it in as soon as you get admitted. So don't wait to make the necessary preparations. So have all your documents ready, and as soon as you have the admission, you really need to act quickly.
Yeah. And do you know the answer to the question of Mr. A, Liz? Because so it's indicated that this BSc certificate was legalized. The transcript, is that necessary as well?
Yeah, well, my answer there would be to double check with the registrar's office or the central admin office, because they are the ones that decide on this. What I know, and from experience, we normally ask both. So both the degree and the transcript of records. But you can double check with the admission team. For example, sometimes it is also accepted that your home university sends the transcript of records directly via email to our admission office. So you can double check with them. The email address is admission@ugent.be. I will type it in the chat.
Okay, thank you. Then there are a few questions by Shirin Sanai. So yes, indeed, again, I repeat myself, make your file as strong and as clear as possible. So if the dissertation was fire related, be sure to make that clear somewhere in your application file. We're not going to share here the questions we asked during the interview. That's part of the interview experience, and that you can reply to the questions on the spot, and that you should not prepare too much for the interview. You should prepare, but not too much. I don't understand the question about accepting applications for next year. The applications now are for September 26. You cannot apply yet for September 27. That's not meaningful. Of course, it's always possible that something happens in between and that you may have to postpone your start of the studies. That is something else than already knowing now that you cannot start until September 27. Then it's not meaningful to apply already now. The question by Salman, if you have multiple certification documents, just put them all together in one PDF and then upload that PDF into the application file. Motivation letter, that's up to you. You have to convince us with your motivation letter. That's not something that I will do for you, so I will not reply to that question. Bachelor from Applied Sciences University, also allowed to apply? Yes. Yeah, the answer is yes. The recorded session, that's a practical question. I don't know how that will be made available.
We will make it available on our website, and will probably be available on YouTube. But my colleague Natalie will take care of this. And we will normally also send out an email to all of you who were attended here. So you will find the information in an email that you will receive. Natalie, do you want to add something there?
No, that's it. I just replied in the chat as well. So
okay, perfect.
I'll send an email to everyone where it's going to be posted.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah. Fahad insists on questions on the language. No, I did not say that you need an IELTS test. You check the website. There are multiple tests that can be used with that lead to a valid certificate. So that's where you can find all the information. Is this having trouble to scroll here according to scholarship? Yeah. Is it possible to get? No, the scholarships are granted on behalf of IMFSE. So we are the only, say, entity that can grant scholarships for the IMFSE program. So you cannot, it doesn't make sense to apply with any of the individual partners. You can only apply to IMFSE for scholarships for our program.
Maybe I can add there. I'm not sure if
Please.
associated partner here is what is meant by this applicant. If you're talking about the scholarships from contributors, so again, you can only apply through online through the website, and there is no need to contact any of our contributors. So the extra scholarships we have, we will make the selection and we will let the students know. So if you select in your application file that you want to apply for the Erasmus scholarship, you are also immediately selecting to apply for any other of the scholarships we have available. You don't need to do anything else. You do not need to contact them or do another procedure. We know that once you apply for that scholarship from the Erasmus, you also apply for other scholarships, and then we will let you know.
Yeah, that's correct. And it's even a bit stronger. There is no need to apply. It doesn't make sense to apply to any of the members of the consortium. So please don't bother them with that question, because the answer will be no. The question by Phil, I can quickly say yes. So the semesters are September until December, and then January until May, June. These are the typical length for the semesters. Question by Mr. A. We don't know. Indeed, you correctly noted that this is the final, say, cohort for this round of IMFSE. When I say round, I mean the project as granted by the European Commission, the European agency, EASA. We will have to apply for, say, continuation of the IMFSE program. We will do that. But it is completely unknown whether or not we will be, again, continued to be supported by Europe. So this is a correct observation that it's the last cohort of this project.
Maybe the
if you
apostille
aposta-
one?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Can I answer the apostille question, maybe?
Absolutely, because we replied it a couple of times already, but if you want to say it once again, please go
Yes,
ahead.
maybe I just try to make it clear to everyone so nobody is confused anymore. So you need to legalize or qualify your documents, and there are multiple options to do so. The new one is called the qualification check. You can find all the information online. If you have another have done another procedure, for example, an apostille or the legalization by the Belgian embassy, that is also fine. You do not need to combine those procedures. If you have an apostille, you do not also need to do a qualification check. Or the other way around, if you do the qualification check, you do not need to do, for example, the apostille. So you need to legalize it in one way, okay? So just please read through the web link and the website of UGent. You can reach it through our IMFSE website. Everything is explained clearly there.
Yeah, and that's the final time we give that reply. And then the Bachelor of Occupational Health and Safety, that really depends on the contents of the program. If there are insufficient, say, engineering-oriented courses, then the answer will be no. But in some of these programs, there are also engineering-oriented courses, and then the answer is yes. Thank you for clarifying your question, Shirin. So a language proficiency certificate is indeed necessary for admission. Normally, there is more than enough time between now and the final date and to provide that document. And so this can be done then. If you don't make it by then, you will have to reapply next year. So the admission or not is really based on the total fulfilling of the requirements or not. And I've already mentioned, I think it's not easier nor more difficult to get admitted with a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. It really depends on the overall application file, and the degree is one part of that. So it's not easier or more difficult. And actually, if you look at the population of students, it's really a mix of students who had already obtained a master's degree and students who had not. So it's really a mix. There's a good question about the choice in the first semester and the third semester. And so in the first semester, actually, the contents is very, very similar between University of Ghent and University of Edinburgh. As a student, when you are admitted into the program, you are offered to indicate your preference. But as management board, we also strive for a uniform distribution in terms of student numbers between Ghent and Edinburgh in semester one. So you might be overruled, and you can indicate your first choice of preference and try to motivate why you have a certain preference there. In the third semester, there I've already mentioned briefly in the presentation that the focus at UPC is a bit more on wildfires and industrial fire protection, and at Ghent University it's more on the built environment. So that could be an argument for your choice. Again, this being said, at both institutes, you will get the broad education that you need to become a good fire safety engineer. And again, there you will be asked to indicate your preference while you are studying. So actually around this period of the year, next year, then you will be asked to indicate your preference. But again, also there, as the management board, we try to strive for a more or less uniform distribution or sufficiently uniform distribution of number of students. So again, also there, you might be over. But again, we offer the option of preference first. Okay. There's again a question about legalization and qualification, but we're not going to reply to that anymore. That has been asked a couple of times, so you can check the website. If anything is unclear, you can also send an email afterwards. I also want to say to Murad Ali, we're not going to unmute you. So if you have a question, please ask it through the chat box like everybody is doing. Well, if you know that your language certificate is going to expire, you will need a new one. Again, just make clear in your application file that you are fully aware of that and that you are planning to redo the language test, and then this will not reduce your chances for admission nor for a scholarship. There is, say, a conditional admission, indeed. If you then still, you can have a conditional admission if you can then still provide your language proficiency certificate before the final deadline that you need to meet for admission. If you cannot meet it by then also that conditional admission is gone. And so, yes, there is one, but not an eternal conditional admission. You can then only have that for a few months. And I should register for a master's degree. I don't fully understand that question. If the question is that your master's degree has not been obtained yet, but that you will or are expecting to obtain it by the summer, this is okay. Just indicate that, then we keep that in mind, and then admission might be conditional upon you obtaining that master's degree. If you have already obtained the bachelor's degree, then that normally should already be sufficient. But yes, if you are graduating in the summer of 26, that is fine. Well, it's the question by Murad Ali. It's a combination of everything that you write, so it's very easy to reply. Okay. I'm not going to reply to that question on language anymore. We are turning in circles. So, and we're also getting a bit toward the end of this session. So, unless we get a real new question within the next minute, I think I'm going to close the session. Yes, I can certainly repeat the answer, Shirin. Apologies if I was not clear enough. So yes, there is such a thing as conditional admission. And so particularly if the only thing that is missing is the language certificate, but that conditional admission is lasting for only this intake. So it's not a conditional admission forever. So it doesn't make sense to only then provide the language certificate next year for an application to start in 27. So it doesn't work like that. So conditional admission would be to start in September 26, and then the language certificate must be provided before the deadline. I hope my answer was clear now. I appreciate the words of appreciation. Thank you very much for that. We're happy to provide this session because hopefully we take away some uncertainty. Well, the deadline is going to be before the summer break of 26 and to start in September 26. Okay, I see no more new questions popping up. Which allows me to, I think, close this session. I hope that many of you will apply for our program, and maybe you can also encourage some of your student friends or colleagues to also apply for our program. We hope to welcome you soon, and the program starts, and now a new question pops in. The program starts in September, and the deadline for conditional admission, I mentioned the summer break of 26 at latest. So, all right, I wish you all a nice rest of the day, and good luck with your application. There's one more question coming in. Yes, people with disabilities can also apply. That's certainly not a problem. Okay. Bye-bye, everyone, and good luck.
Good luck, everyone. Bye.
Hi guys, if someone record the session, please send it to me.